This week, we've got an inspirational interview with a guy who chose basketball as a coach at a very, very young age. He's doing his thing at Georgia Tech University in the ACC basketball country. Head coach Josh Pastner. We have a five-star journalist as well from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, a great Twitter follow covering Georgia Tech sports from all angles. Our guy, Ken Segura.
This is Joshua Pastner with One Star Recruits. Go Georgia Tech, the Ramblin' Wreck.
Yo, aloha. Welcome back to the One Star Recruits podcast. I'm DK, joined as always with my best friend of 25 years, Rip. We're a couple one stars who, like you, we're on this journey of life. We're learning, loving, and getting better every day with the help of some five-star athletes, entertainers, coaches, celebs from around the world. Rip, immediately, I want to hop in because you sent me some pictures, bro, of one of my favorite cities in the country. Not the world. That's a stretch. I'm going to say it, though. In the world, my baby, aka my home where I was with Ken. I was on the team that launched the franchise in Santa Cruz, California, the G League Warriors there. And Rip was at the boardwalk. Rip, how was it? On a scale 1 to 5 stars. Rip, what do you give it?
It was 5 stars. The Santa Cruz boardwalk. I have 2 young kids, Ken, a 5-year-old and a 4-year-old, and we did the boardwalk on Sunday. Did some of the roller coasters, some of the kid rides, and it was a great day in Santa Cruz. DK, I did not get to swing by the house that DK built, the Kaiser Permanente Arena.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a Sunday, so it was kind of sleepy with like the business stuff aside from like tour. It was kind of all tourist stuff, and we were at the boardwalk for about 5 hours, 5 solid hours, hit the beach.
That's solid. Did you do any fried Oreos? You do any good boardwalk? Any saltwater taffy? Any good boardwalk food?
You nailed it, man. Saltwater taffy, a quarter pound of it, and the kids had it all gone by about 5 that night. So sugar high and constipation, but oh so delicious. Ken, before we get to the lovely south, what's your favorite West Coast city to visit?
Well, it's funny you mentioned Santa Cruz. I have sisters. One lives in Los Gatos and the other lives in Los Altos.
Nice.
So actually just this summer our family visited them. We were staying in my one sister was getting her house redone. I forget the name of the town we were in, but yeah, just around that area near.
You were up there, man. No, that's good. So we all got some common denominators. Rip, I'm glad you had a lovely weekend. On the podcast today, we're going to continue our summer tour around the country. It's been so much fun along the way. This week we're in Atlanta, Rip, Midtown to be exact. Ken, give me a quick humidity check.
I haven't been outside too much, but I'm sure it's pretty hot and humid. So I'm guessing it's high 80s and humid.
Like what's the air conditioner set at in the house?
Oh, good question.
We have it around 72 or so. Yeah,
same in my house. Same out here in California.
Yeah, it's really nice in the house. Yes.
You guys saving money a little bit. I go down into the 60s, but good. And like a true journalist, the man has not been outside yet. He's getting his articles in, man. I love
it. On my phone and writing stories. Yeah.
You get some, Ken. All right, brother. While we're here, ACC hoops. Give us a quick synopsis, a lay of the land where Coach Pastner's Yellow Jackets sit going into the season.
Well, this past season did not go well. They finished second to last in the league. They were 12-20 overall. They lost 2 really. Actually, they lost obviously 2 of their best players in Jose Alvarado and Moses Wright, who went on the NBA. And so that was a big hit. And then some injuries, and they were pretty young, but they probably didn't play as well as they could have. But going into this year, I think what Josh Pastner said is they feel like they're more experienced and a lot of freshmen got a lot of playing time. Rodney Howard, their post player, I think they're counting on to be much better. I think what his, I talked with him not too long ago, and he said that kind of what his vision for this team is that, they want to be competitive to get in the postseason. And I think they got a chance to do that this year. It'll be tough because the league's always hard, but I think they got some pieces to be better and hopefully make some progress.
Let's go. Look at Ken. I feel like you're getting a little fired up there, Ken. I'm going to get you pumped up for some ACC hoops. I know you get down into football. You root for the Hawks too while we're here real fast? You a Hawks fan?
I confess I don't follow them much. I have a kind of a loose idea what's going on with them, but probably I'm not as learned.
No, Big Ken stays in Midtown. You stay in Midtown. I love it, bro. I love it. Rip, I don't think we've ever had a more positive guest in the 150 some shows that we've done. Does one come to mind for you, Rip?
I mean, Dikembe Mutombo is always, he always brings that positive energy. We had him on, another big Atlanta guy a couple years ago. And I wanted to ask Ken, like, you've been in the game for a long time in journalism.
Right.
Have you ever covered someone as positive as Josh? And is it always like that? Is he always on just a 10 like that, on a high?
The first question, no, I have not. I mean, he is really someone different. And it sounds like you guys know as well as I do. As far as like, is he always that high? I mean, after some tough losses, I think he's down. And certainly he went through some personal things a few years ago that were obviously pretty challenging for him, and for his family. But yeah, it's remarkable. Whenever you talk to him, he's always happy to talk with you and upbeat and available. And yeah, he really is unlike anyone I've ever covered, for sure.
Unlike anybody Ken has ever covered. He's really that guy. And like all of us in life, ups and downs, things happen. And it's kind of how you maintain and keep that attitude. Enjoy getting fired up with Georgia Tech head coach Josh Pastner.
Now joining the One Star Recruits podcast, we have a husband, a father, a man who hasn't had coffee, alcohol, or soda in his entire life, the current head coach of the Georgia Tech men's basketball team, Josh Pastner. Thanks for hanging out at the One Stars, Coach.
Thanks for having me. You forgot one part of that. I think I'm the longest sideburn coach as well, too, with the sideburns. You know what I mean?
Oh, nice.
The Wolverine of the ACC there.
Well, hey. I'm recruiting in the last couple of weeks. Everyone would call me, they would call me Coach Elvis. They would call me Elvis. And I just said, well, I was the head coach at Memphis. I'm going back to my Memphis roots. You know what I mean? So
I love that. Great.
You can even go a little 90210 if you want. You got a good face, man.
There you go. There you go. And in fact, when Will Ferrell was playing in Talladega Nights, I saw that on TV and he had the long sideburns because on the Talladega Nights when he was being the character. And so he had sideburns. So anyway, people were texting me. But anyway, they would call me Coach Elvis during the summer. So I thought that was funny.
Do these 17 and 18-year-old kids know what either Elvis or Talladega Nights is? That's the question.
A lot of them might not even know who Michael Jordan is. I mean,
right?
They weren't even born when Michael Jordan was playing. So, it's funny when you're talking about that, one of the great players ever to play, well, one of the greatest ever to play at Georgia Tech and one of the greats to play in the NBA was Mark Price.
Right.
And Mark Price, longtime NBA, great shooter. I mean, just, all NBA All-Star, gold medalist, just, one of the great players. Well, we had a recruit, this was a little bit ago, we had a recruit on campus and Mark Price was in town and Mark Price ran into the recruit in our gym where his jersey is retired, and he obviously said some, really positive things about us and Georgia Tech. And I, and I introduced him to, this is Mark Price, thinking, anyways, obviously when Mark left, I said, that's Mark Price, man. That's a bit, because Coach, who's Mark Price? And so I just say, that's that guy up there in the jersey. I mean, he was one of the great guards ever to play. But it just shows you a lot. I mean, as time keeps going by, people, they don't know about everybody in the past. And it's a real interesting dynamic. It's as each year goes by, that's just the way it is. And as new kids, young people come up through the ranks, that's why I make the point like Michael Jordan. Yes, everybody knows Michael Jordan, but the kids who were recruiting weren't alive when he played. Mm-hmm. And as eventually these guys go, that's just kind of how things go in the realm of our world.
They got to know Mark Price and Steph Marbury. I know they know Steph Marbury, but
it's interesting. Like Kenny Anderson and John Sally, and there's been some great pros here, obviously, but I mean, like Dennis Scott. Dennis Scott's on NBA TV all the time, but most of the young people don't even know that he was a great player. They just see him on TV. You know what I'm saying? But that's just kind of how it is. Now, the ones that really know the past players are the ones that really study the game, because you're really studying about the history of the game and knowing what's going on. But look, that's just, it kind of is what it is. It's with everything else and social media and quick snippets of things. I mean, things are just different now. That's just part of the deal. And as college what I would say, even I say to our staff, as college landscape changes and the world changes, but especially in the world that we're in college basketball or college sports, college athletics, and the way things have changed and constantly evolved, you have to be willing to be flexible, willing to adjust, be on the fly. Thinking that anything's going to go exactly as it is not going to be. And that includes dealing with the young people. Things are moving constantly, and you've got to be on top of it. No time to complain. This is just kind of the space that we're in, and things are moving fast, and you've got to accept and be enthused about willing to change and being really, really flexible and wanting to adjust, at the spur of the moment.
Speaking of being flexible, how about just installing a few of those arcade NBA Jam games in the locker room, and they'll know who all those old players are.
Well, you know what? Instead of installing the old arcade games, we're better off taking that and giving money on the NIL. I mean, I don't know if the student athletes would prefer the NIL than the arcades in there. You know what I mean? It's funny when people are saying about facilities, arcades, or whatever you want to put in the locker room. I'm like, hey, we don't need any more facility upgrades. Put it into the collective, or put it to an NIL, because that's kind of the way it is. And yes, obviously we wouldn't turn down a facilities upgrade or an arcade or anything like that. But the reality of it is that is part of the change of the landscape. Where probably you both know this. 5 years ago, you're trying to get the best locker rooms and the best practice facilities. Well, that's maybe secondary now, because now you've got to be on top of the NIL part of it, and that maybe supersedes the bells and whistles, as I like to say. And so that's part of the ever changing and evolution of college athletics, and it's really day by day.
It's all evolving. And Coach, one thing I do know is that if these kids, if your players, they look directly on the Georgia Tech website on your bio, they'll see that line in there that you've never had coffee, alcohol, or soda in your entire life. Look, DK here is in Hawaii right now. It's 7:00 in the morning. I'm pretty sure he's already had all 3 of those. It can't be true. Is it accurate? I mean, you have 5 children. There's no way you're not having coffee at least. Tell me it's not true.
So I've never had a sip of coffee. I've never had any alcohol. I've never had any carbonated drinks. So I've never had sodas. I don't curse. But I say all that to say there's so many good coaches that have won so many more games, that drink a lot of coffee, that drink alcohol, and drink plenty of soda, and said many curse words. So I'm not saying my way is the right way, but at least when I get my heart checked up, it's for the stress test, they give me a double thumbs up that's saying, hey, it's you're in good health right now.
Where's this energy coming from? Where's all the energy?
Well, you know what? I really believe this. A few things. Number one, I love my job. I love what I do, just like you guys. You love what you do. I have total enthusiasm. I love life. Like I have such a deep, great appreciation for life. I really hope I've said this before. I hope I can live to 120. I mean, people look at me when I say I want to live to 120. I said, man, and if I'm so lucky even to get to 100, I'm 44. That means I've got 56 years left. That's not enough. That's not a lot. That's why you've got to enjoy every day. And it's sort of like the old thing. You remember Jerry Maguire, Dickie Fox, when he says, he was telling Tom Cruise, when you get out of bed, you wake up, you clap your hands, say, today's going to be a great day. And that's got to be the mentality that you got to have. Now, again, easier said than done. Things happen. Life happens. There's ups and downs. There's all kinds of things. I get that. But things go by fast and quick. And literally every breath is a gift. Every heartbeat's a gift. When you really put it in perspective, how fast things go. I mean, think about it for you two. You can remember back when you're in middle school or high, and think where you are now. And I mean, it's just things move, and it's just a real preciousness to really be grateful in life and to live. And that's why I go back to how every breath and every heartbeat is really a gift.
Preach. I'm getting fired up, Coach.
We interrupt this interview for a brief moment to talk about the greatness of the UCAN products that we use every day. DK, you know I'm a big fan of the chocolate almond butter energy bars that keep me going every day. What's your favorite UCAN product?
I do a smoothie every morning, and recently I've been subbing out orange juice for the tropical orange flavor UCAN energy mix. I put a packet of that in. I also put an avocado in. It does something really great. It helps me curb my hunger cravings, and I'm fully hydrated for the day. So recommend the UCAN tropical orange mix.
There it is. It's all about energy on this podcast and really in life, and UCAN products help us with that. So check out all the products, get 20% off all your orders and free shipping at ucan.co/1 STAR and use the code 1STAR at checkout. Back to the interview.
You're a man of conviction, and you knew it early. I'm very impressed with this. I'm going to lay it out, the story from my mother, so she understands here. The story of you knowing that you wanted to be a basketball coach since you were in elementary school has been told a ton of times, but let's dig in just a little. When you look at the numbers, guys like me and Rip, under 6 feet tall, little athletic ability, we're 1-stars. And when it comes to playing the game of basketball itself and other games where you need to be physically fit and ready for it, you were smart enough to see it in yourself before anybody else. And you hit full throttle on that pretty early. What makes a young kid not even think about the dream of playing instead of pivoting towards the goal of being a coach early on?
Yeah, no, look, well, number one is I wanted to play in the NBA. I mean, who doesn't want to play in the NBA or in NFL or Major League Baseball, whatever it may be? I mean, you want to be a movie star, rock star, or professional athlete. I mean, everybody has those attributes to want to do that one day. And so, but I remember telling my father in 5th grade, telling him I was watching the Lakers Celtics on a national network, and I told him, I said, if I can't, play in the NBA, I want to stay in the game of basketball. And the next best thing in my viewpoint to playing, to keep that adrenaline rush and to have some involvement of that adrenaline, getting ready for a game and all that stuff, was coaching. So I knew that. I put all my energies towards that. Now, I still work like crazy thinking that I was going to be, I could play, make it. I got an opportunity to get to Arizona to walk on. And prior to that, I was thinking in my mind, because I remember watching like Steve Kerr on television. I'm like, hey, if Steve Kerr can make it, why can't I? I mean, I'm working on my shooting. I mean, I would spend hours a day working on my shooting and working on my game. So I'm thinking I can just be like Steve Kerr. Well, I tell you what, so I get to Arizona, honest to God, true story. I get to Arizona and so we're playing pickup. And there's 2 things that happen. One is we play pickup. I'm involved in the pickup game. Within 3 possessions, I said to myself, okay, it's over. Like it's over. I get it. Like it's impossible. Like these guys are so fast, so quick. It's not happening. I'm going to end up being the all-time leading rebounder at the University of Arizona by all the rebounds that I do for the guys after practice rebounding for them. I wasn't going to be able to help them. I knew within like 3 possessions, like trying to guard those guys, it was just not happening. And then what was interesting, Steve Kerr would come back when at my time at Arizona, he would come back when he was with the Bulls, and I'd be there to rebound for him. He'd ask me to rebound and because you'd get stuff, working on his game in the summer. But even watching him do that in his work, when I would, just rebound for him, his foot speed, like his quickness of his feet. And even like if you talk, these guys who are these smaller guards, the speed of things. So even you thinking, well, is he really that fast or that quick? Those guys at that level, they're like their first step. Even the ones you might not visually, it doesn't look like they're quick. They're really quick. Everyone at that level, their feet, their first step, their explosiveness, it's just a whole different deal. And so I understood it quickly. And I had been studying that time, but then I really escalated it to another level, knowing that, okay, the competitive part of it of playing was pretty much over. Now, I was 42-0 as a player at the University of Arizona. Dang. I only got in games that we were up 20 or more. And let me just tell you this, everyone in Tucson wanted a Pastner game. They called it a Pastner game. That means we were going to win the game by 25. That was great for the bars. That was great for restaurants. Everyone left the gym happy, wanted to spend money because you're winning by 20, 25. Everybody wanted a Pastner game because they know if I was in, man, that thing was, it was a win, and we were winning by 25, and it was great for the economy in the city of Tucson.
So the Taco Fall of Tucson, man. I love it. it's all about mentors, and you had some great ones. Your parents, actually, very quickly, when you told your pops that, what did he say for all the fathers out there who maybe want their kids to look at different options if they're recognizing athletic ability in there? What did your pops say to that?
Yeah, no, and and to his credit, I look at my dad as my best friend, and we have such a great relationship. But he started an AAU team. It was at the time it was called the Kingwood Stars, but then it moved to the Houston Hoops, which still goes on till today. And I was able to coach the Houston Hoops, both boys and girls.
Nice.
And so it gave me a great opportunity on that. And as you guys know, I mean, look, I have more parents come to me, even young kids, they'll come to me and their parents say, hey, my kid wants to, play basketball. And I always recommend to them, and I really believe it, that especially at a younger age, like let them play as many sports as you can, because the chances of playing even at this Power 5 level is, forget the NBA or professional ranks, just even at this level is nearly impossible. It's so hard to get to this level because, again, the speed, the quickness, the athleticism, the talent. But I tell them, let them have fun. The more they can be involved in activities and sports, yes, they might not be a pro or might not even play high-level college, but it teaches them discipline. It teaches them team camaraderie, teaches them about, playing, sportsmanship and working hard, and they're having something they're striving for. So being involved in athletics, I think it's as much. Sometimes people get on about the issues with athletics, about things about, TV deals or the 1% that's good enough to go to the pros out of high school. I can list you 1,000 reasons how important athletics is for young people, boys and girls, that far outweighs the 1% of something here and there that sometimes gets really, over talked about when it's really the masses you're talking about are never going to make it to that level anyway.
You hear that, Rip? That's wonderful advice. Rip thinks that he's going to get his 6-year-old in refereeing school. He thinks he's referee talents early. So
let me tell you this. I'm telling you this right now. Rip, listen. And I mean this with like officiating. And did you see Richard Jefferson do this the other day?
Yep.
I thought it was great. I'm telling you, I think all of us coaches should go into go to a camp and because
smart,
even for young people, for the young, like we need officials, and we don't need to berate them. We don't need, look, you're going to get on officials. That's part of the deal. I get it, but they're still humans. Like it's in the speed of the game. And especially for youth sports, you need officials. We don't need to run them out and have them being afraid because the coach is yelling at them over in a 10 and under game because they're worried about a foul call. I mean, it's 10 and under. We need officials, especially in youth sports. We don't want to let them run out because for all sports, we need that. But I think it's a great thing what Richard Jefferson did. And I think it's hopefully more people will do that because I think then they understand it's not as easy as it looks.
It's walk a mile in their shoes, right?
Walk a mile. Business idea alert. Referees for pro coaches. It sounds like a great little summer camp too. You can kind of combine a lot of things there. I love that, Coach. That's a great idea, man.
Yeah, well, I'm solution focused, not problem oriented. Solution focused.
Amen. There it is. My mom lives in Tucson, and I'm always looking for new food spots and things to do when I cruise down the I-10. For those who don't know, listeners, we're talking Sonoran hot dogs, cheese crisps, the best tamales that you'll ever have, in my opinion, especially in the Southwest area where Tucson's located. One of your mentors, Coach Lute Olson, did you guys have a lunch spot in Tucson that you would hit?
You know what? We went to a couple spots. I mean, Tucson has so many good restaurants. But what's a good place there that's kind of hidden? That's a fast food spot. It's called E.G.'s. And I don't know if you've ever been to E.G.'s or not. And it's sort of there in the Southwest, but they've got incredible sandwiches, but their slushies or their ice drinks are people just are always, and I feel like having an E.G. And so, but no, there's so many good spots there in Tucson. E.G.'s more of a fast food deal, but it's really more there in the Southwest. And
good. So refreshing, man. A great treat down in Tucson, man.
Yes, it is. And so, look, Tucson's different than Phoenix, even Scotts. It's a different place. Tucson's, there's a lot of, obviously you got the University of Arizona, which is kind of the central hub there in Tucson, but there's so many great places. A lot of people go there to retire, hiking and camping. Phoenix, as you guys know, Phoenix, Scottsdale, that's, it's obviously that's booming, but it's different. It's different. And Tucson's a little bit higher on the above sea elevation, so it's a little bit cooler at night than sometimes Phoenix and Scottsdale. But that whole state of Arizona is a great state, great people, many great places to visit, and it's a really good spot there, no matter what you want to get out of it.
Still got love for Tucson. I love it. What's one thing that you still bring every day to your life that Lute Olson taught you, that hits you maybe in the mornings or when you're starting practice or something? What's one thing that you use every day that you got from Coach Olson?
Yeah, Coach Olson, just an incredible coach, incredible human being. I tell this all the time. Unfortunately, he's passed away just recently, but he single-handedly built the University of Arizona. He single-handedly built the city of Tucson. When you think back in the day, when you thought of not only the University of Arizona, but Tucson, Arizona, you thought of the silver-haired coach and the cactus logo on the court that was always played on those, on the games. And so he literally built a school and a city based on his ability to build a basketball program. And there was a stretch there over 17 years. It was the winningest program in all of college basketball. That included Indiana, North Carolina, Duke. It didn't matter. It was Coach Olson, and he did it literally starting at ground zero. And he did so much charity work. Obviously, that's people don't even know about that he was involved in. But there's so many lessons. But on the basketball side, what's so great about him is, yes, he had a great eye for talent. He was a great recruiter, had great players, but his teams were always fundamentally sound. If you came to a practice, it was like a clinic. And he really learned all of his stuff from John Wooden. He spent a lot of time with John Wooden. And if you heard Bill Walton, because Bill Walton played for John Wooden, and obviously his son Luke Walton played for Coach Olson. Bill Walton would say the closest coach he's ever seen to John Wooden was Lute Olson. And they had so many similarities, and John Wooden's respect level for Coach Lute Olson was so high. He would come to our practices at times, Coach Wooden. And so, just on the basketball side, the fundamentals, and Coach Olson was a disciplinarian. There was no messing around. And, it would be real interesting in today's game, guys. And you guys probably have a good perspective. Not only Coach Olson, but some of these other elite coaches who are now retired or unfortunately have passed away. What would they be thinking about in today's game? You know what I mean? I always think about that. Because a lot of these guys have been so good, they've been able to adjust and deal with the kind of the changes and thing. But there's been a lot of extreme changes. And I've always thought guys that are in the Hall of Fame that have retired or unfortunately have passed away, how would they handle in this climate? And I've always thought about that.
It'd be interesting to hear of a Lute or a Dean Smith talking NILs and collectives, right?
Oh, yeah.
I can't even imagine.
No, it's amazing. It's amazing. And the coaching tree speaks for itself. I think there's the fundamentals that you spoke of, Coach, stick with you through all these changes. And that's the core. It's amazing. Thank you for sharing that story. Let's move on. Let's talk about where you're at now in Atlanta at Georgia Tech. You're heading into your 7th season, which is wild to me. Seems like time's flying. You were ACC Coach of the Year back in 2017. We've had a couple weird years because of the pandemic, but I know that you've had sustained success and your guys are used to that. One NCAA tournament appearance in 6 years, but you've got some young guys returning. We got some transfers coming in. What's the current state of Georgia Tech hoops program? I feel like momentum's building, brother. I feel like coming into this fall, we're going in the right direction.
Well, a few things. Number one, I was head coach at University of Memphis for 7 years, and had great 7 years. And when the job opened up here at Georgia Tech, I looked at that and said, man, what a great job. You're in Atlanta. You're in the ACC, which I feel is the best basketball conference in all of college basketball. And you're kind of starting something, you have a chance to build it back up. Because when I took over the job at Memphis, I was replacing, I was an assistant with Coach Calipari and loved my time working for him. But he went, it was in his last 4 years at Memphis, he was the winningest coach for those 4 years in the history of a 4-year time period of the NCAA. And here I am sliding over and taking the job from him. Because he went to Kentucky, and the only reason I got the job was because nobody wanted it to follow him. Nobody wanted to follow him. They said it was impossible. And so here I am following him, and we won a lot. However, you're always going to be compared to that. And you're just like, and I kept telling people, look, the only way to get that success back is let's hire him back from Kentucky. So give him a call. If he wants to come back, I'll slide back over to be his assistant. So, But when this job opened, so when I met them, the athletic director and the search committee and everyone, they told me, hey, look, we need to restart. We're going to start from the very bottom, from ground zero, and we need to build this back up, and it's going to take time. And they said, but here's the deal: we need someone who's ultra positive, who sees a couple things: the academics of the school, where it's not a challenge, where that it's a positive, that you're going to lose so much your first couple of years that you're going to not be negative about. You're going to stay positive, because we're starting from ground zero, and we're going to start all over. And they said, I don't know if you can handle that, because you've won a lot at Memphis. Because going into my first 7 years as a head coach, we never had lost 3 games in a row, ever, which I tell people it's an incredible stat. Most we've lost was 2 in a row. So here I am going to my 8th year as a head coach. When I got my first year at Georgia Tech, was my 8th year, and they're telling me you're going to lose all these games. But I said, hey, man, I'm Mr. Positive, and I want a new challenge. I want to be able to say I've taken a program at the very top and try to sustain it. And now, as taking something over, you're trying to build it back up. What a great lesson for CEOs, because you're really a CEO of companies. And I've seen it both ways: good, bad. How do you do it? Mistakes, the things you've done well. So I said to him in the meeting, I said, guys, listen, I need 5 years. I says, not 4 and not 6. I said, I need a full 5 years, and we'll be back to the NCAA tournament. 5 years. And I said, now, after 5 years, if I don't get us in the tournament, let me go. I said, but you can't give me 4. You got to give me 5. I will have us back to the tournament in 5 years. I have a vision. I have a plan. And I said, oh, by the way, because they said you're probably not going to win a game your first year in the ACC. You're going to go 0-18. I says, great. Can you put in there that if I got coach of the year, can I get a big bonus? And in my first year, and so, because I was thinking, what the heck? I'll just put that in there. You say I'm not going to win a game, so if we win some games, I think I'll be coach of the year or something. So, anyway, 2 things. One, my first year, we ended up overachieving, had a great run, and we ended up getting coach of the year. And they gave me I got the bonus. And of course, I actually put it back to the students, and during, because we were in the NIT and did a lot of things for the students, so it was really a good deal. But so in my 5th year, we ended up going winning the ACC championship. We won the ACC championship. I go back to my room with my cell phone. I have the 5 people in that room that were all in that room when they were hired. I texted each person. I says, mission accomplished, box checked, job done. And meaning that, because I told them, like, I was being a man of my word, 5 years that we'll be back in the tournament. And so in the 5th year, we got there. It was a build, it was a climb, there was up and downs, but we got back. And then this past year, unfortunately, in my viewpoint, for Georgia Tech to be really successful in the ACC, you got to get old and stay old. But we won the ACC championship. We're in the tournament. We lost a lot of guys. We lost a couple of guys to the NBA. Lost a guy to injury. So we lost a lot. We were really young last year, and so for us to be successful, we need to get old and stay old. So the bad news, I had to be young last year and take some lumps. The good news is those young guys got a lot of minutes, so we hopefully be back to being a little bit older again next year to give us a chance to have more success going in the conference.
I want to talk about one of those guys. A player I loved watching growing up was Vernon Maxwell, Mad Max on those Rockets teams.
Oh yeah,
that won the titles in the 90s. You have his son Tristan there. He's battled through some injuries and adversity during his time with you.
Yep.
But he had a great high school career in North Carolina. He's a high-level scorer. Is this the year that you expect that he's going to finally put it all together?
Yes, and a few other things. One is Tristan has come a long way, and you're right. He was a great high school player. State of North Carolina Player of the Year, scored 2,500 points in his 4-year high school career, which is hard. I mean, that's a lot of points when you're thinking of playing 32-minute games. Has his jersey retired in high school. But as you guys know, there's just a transition from going to high school to college. And what he got hurt also was he was coming in the transition of the COVID pandemic, where usually you could have guys here in the summer and allow them to transition and work. He couldn't be here during that time because of the pandemic. They didn't allow the incoming people to get here during that summertime. So he missed a big part of that. So the transition it took that first year, it was just a lot for him to try to throw him in and get things. We had an older team, and you're just not waiting around. Like you're moving forward, and so it just took some time. Then last year he struggled with some injuries and things. However, he did come in against Boston College and had a huge game for us, hit 7 threes, and was big for us to win us the game. But I say all that to say that we need him this year to be really good for us. He's going to his 3rd year. He's got his body right. He's really understood that what's needed for the discipline and the standards. And there's one thing, as you mentioned, he can score the ball. And I've always said this, either you can, scoring the basketball in this level, and you guys understand, whether it's NBA or college, I don't care what level, middle school, some players just have an innate ability to put the ball in the basket. They just know how to put the ball in the basket. They know what they're doing. They know how to do it. Tristan's just one of those guys. Now, maybe with that comes some tough shots, some breakaway plays. It's not always going to be perfect, but just the ability to know how to put the ball in the basket, because I still say the hardest thing to coach as a head coach is when you can't score. Man, that is frustrating. It is. Even Mr. Positive Paul, like myself, I don't want anything to do with negative Nellies. Even Mr. Positive Paul, myself, when you can't score, you're like, it is not fun. It is hard. It's frustrating because you can draw whatever you want to draw up on the board, but that's it. The player's got to go put the ball in the basket. And what a dynamic coaching in college. How about your job dependent on 18 to 22 and 23-year-olds to put the ball in the basket? Is that crazy or what? Is that just a crazy when you think about it for those guys to score the ball? How such a fine line basketball is. It's a make and miss game. You make it, you're a great coach. You miss it, you're not a great coach. I mean, what a fine line this game is. Best reality TV there is basketball.
Oh, I say that all the time. I think best reality TV to come. I'm getting full-on Ted Lasso vibes here from you, brother. Netflix, Apple TV.
Hey, I love on Ted Lasso when he has the word believe. I told when I'm telling guys when we're doing these running drills and they tell me, Coach, we can't make, I says, don't tell me you can't do something. Believe you can. I was thinking I need to put that up there like Ted Lasso on that. So that's not only do they call me Coach Elvis, sometimes they call me Coach Lasso.
I mean, I'm feeling it. I'm telling you, if we might have to get a little. We might have to find a company to get out there and get a reality TV show. The world needs to see this positive cat out here with Coach Josh. I want to actually stick with Georgia Tech because we don't talk about them enough, and Rip and I are trying to learn and get better. Who's another player, a returner, or one of the new guys that you are expecting big things from, and Yellow Jacket fans should know about?
Yeah, I mean, look, I've said this a few things with us for this year. Our team, the star of our team for this season, needs to be the team. We might not have that one person that can just carry us on the back and just say, hey, I'm just going to lead you to the Final Four, lead you to the tournament of the ACC championship. The star of this year's team's got to be the team. Now, we have good individual players, but the team's got to be really good. And what does that mean? That means that we cannot beat ourselves. Like we can't be turning the ball over 14, 15, 16 times in a game. That's a recipe for a disaster or a loss, especially in this league. We can't be giving teams second and third opportunities on the glass. I mean, that's just a recipe for disaster. Teams are too good to do that. So we've got to be great as the star of the team in the controllables of a we can control. And I think that is a big deal for us this year. And you can just follow us and look at the box score. Now, that doesn't mean we're going to win every game. I've said this in this league in the ACC, you can play really well and still lose because some of these teams we play have such great players. I mean, they're going to be potential lottery picks, and so you have such great players. And then you look at things have changed this year because of the COVID and the NIL. Like we should be moving upward. But there's a lot of teams in this league that got guys back that shouldn't be playing this year. But they came back because of the additional COVID year that the NCAA granted them and because they had an NIL opportunity instead of trying to say, I'll go pro. They said, no, I'll get more money in the NIL at the school. So in my viewpoint, there's a lot of guys, they're playing, they're in the league, but they shouldn't be here this year. They should already be gone. They should have graduated. They should be moved on. So it keeps some of those teams where you're trying to jump them again, where we did the year before, they don't get jumped maybe right away or, based on paper because, their guys are back and they probably shouldn't be back based on, technically of the old way of the 4-year deal. But now with the COVID, you have that 5th year and plus with NIL, I mean, look at Carolina. 5 years ago, that whole team would have left and declared for the draft. This year, that whole team is back because of the opportunity that they could probably make more money in the NIL than they would maybe, even if they weren't drafted, maybe in the G League or something overseas. Yeah. That's just the new landscape of college basketball. Now, the COVID additional year will eventually transition out at some point here in the next couple of years, because that was about a 4-year window, and that's got a couple more years left. But what's interesting is the NC2A is voting on August 3rd about allowing unlimited transfers. Right now, you're allowed to transfer technically one time without sitting out, but they are voting August 3rd to pass a rule that you can transfer as much as you want, as long as you're academically eligible. That's a change of the landscape. And so are you building a program, or are you just building a team year by year? What an interesting dynamic.
I should have known you were going to go with the team answer, and I love that. I'm going to pin you down so we get an answer on one guy.
Fair enough.
Former Yellow Jacket, Josh Okogie signed with my hometown team in my
Suns.
The Suns. What can Suns fans expect out of Josh?
Yeah, no, I love Josh. I think, if you look at his Twitter, it's I forget the exact name of it, but it's like nonstop, Kogi or whatever, because his motor's always running. And, he was a great player for me here at Georgia Tech. Interesting story. He wasn't one of the top 10 players ranked in the state of Georgia his senior year. In fact, he wasn't a top 150 kid coming out of high school. Some games he didn't even start on his AAU team. Interesting. I mean, it's just crazy. And then 2 years later, he comes here. 2 years later, he's the 20th pick in the NBA draft. Just shows you it's not always about rankings. And but one thing about him is he has a high motor. I mean, he's got an elite motor. He is such a playing hard type of guy, and he makes winning plays. And I thought he got a little bit lost out of favor in Minnesota based on the fact that, they got a lot of guys. They had Anthony Edwards come in, and of course they had a great year. They were in, and they had, of course they've got Karl Anthony Towns and all them. So they had a year, and they had a really good offensive team. But you got to appreciate for what Josh is. He's a defender. He's a winning play. He's a 50-50 ball game guy, motor. And I think he really is going to fit in well with Phoenix. And he's tremendous in the community. He's tremendous with people, tremendous with young people, great role model. So you'll enjoy him in Phoenix there.
Oh, thank you, man. And I love it. The motor, man. If Georgia Tech's the school of motors and high energy, Jose, Josh, keep it going.
Myself, that's what it is.
Let's go.
Hey, everyone says, what do you look for? Hey, coach, what are you looking for in a guy? I said, man, does he have a motor? That's the first thing I'm looking for. Does he have a motor? And they go, what is motor? I'm like, I can give you a definition, but I know what it looks like. The definition is 100% effort, 100% of the time. But I know when I see motor, I know what motor looks like.
And it's natural, not even fueled by coffee. Hey, Josh, we end every interview with a segment we call one star to 5 star. I have a few more for you here. We're 1 stars. We're trying to get better with advice and tips from every guest we have on this podcast, like yourself. So I want to ask you a few questions that run the gamut on a 1 to 5 star scale. Let's say 1 being the lowest, 5 being the highest. When you were 19 years old, you applied to be the head coach of the Los Angeles Clippers. At 19, it's another crazy part of your story, but it just shows that 5-star confidence that you had to do something like that as a teenager. First question on this, did you hear back on that application? And the second, what is maybe a 1-star experience you've had when applying for a job in terms of a response you've gotten? Because you've applied for a lot of jobs. I know there has to be a 1-star story there.
Well, yes, I did apply for the Los Angeles Clippers. And in fact, at the time, Elgin Baylor was with the Clippers. I think it was a GM, and Jeff Weltman, who I think is now with the Magic. I think he's the president of the Magic or vice president. They were working together. They actually called me back and put me on speaker and heard me out on my pitch. Wow. And so I really appreciate him a couple of times. Now, if you call my voicemail, I try to keep an inspirational voicemail message. I try to change it up, once a month, and so they would sometimes just call me just to listen to my voicemail message too. But they allowed me to make my pitch on speakerphone, and so both maybe they're laughing on the other end, but I really appreciated to make my pitch. And then on a 1-star part, and I still do this today, I return everybody's call, everyone's text message, it doesn't matter who you are, I return. I always tell people to email, like if you don't get a response from me, you send it to the wrong person, because I respond to everybody. And because I don't like it when someone doesn't, because I've been in that shoes where I've reached out to people and you don't get a response. And I understand people are busy. There's a lot going on, but I believe in responding. And so on a 1-star where, you've reached the people, or you try to apply for something, you don't ever hear back. And so I've always taken the notion of, man, I reply to everyone. And it drives me up the wall whenever I get an email from someone that says, hey, I called one of your staff members, they haven't called me back yet, or I have called them a couple of times. That is a no for me. We call everyone back. We follow up. We recheck, and check again. I just believe in that, and I think it's a good way of doing business. It's a good way of treating people the right way. That doesn't mean you have to entertain their thing. You might just tell them, hey, there's no opportunity here, or no, we just don't have anything. But people appreciate when there's where they know where they stand, or there's some communication. And I think we all do that. Appreciate when we know where we stand, and 2, that there's communication, even if it's something that we don't agree or want to hear. At least we know the communication is there.
I love that. I'm big on that too. Responding to people always. All right, next one here is DK mentioned Jose Alvarado. You coached him for 4 years at Georgia Tech. We're Phoenix Suns fans, like we mentioned. We watched him absolutely torment our team for 7 games in the playoffs a few months ago. He, to me, is the ultimate glue guy, energy guy. I have a ton of respect for how hard he plays. That playoff run kind of put him on the map on a larger scale. But what's a 5-star story you have about the time you spent coaching him that maybe exemplifies who he is, or just what he brings to the table as a player?
Yeah, Jose Alvarado, and he was given the Phoenix Suns fits, and I mean, that's who he is. I mean, that's his survival. I mean, that's what he does. And when I got the job here at Georgia Tech, as I mentioned to you guys earlier, they told me, hey, you're going to lose a lot, et cetera, et cetera. We're starting over. So I'm out recruiting. And I said, I got to get a guard. I got to get someone who's, start out, in our recruiting class. So I'm watching Alvarado play, and it's Sunday morning at 8 a.m. in Vegas, and neither team wants to be there. And so, but the only player that's playing like so hard and as hard as they can is Alvarado. Like he's playing like it's game 7 of the NBA finals, and he's playing the Lakers. And there wasn't a lot of coaches in the building. I was there because I was, and so he is playing so hard, and his team is not playing hard. He is yelling he gets in their faces, is like screaming at him about the effort they're giving him. And he's diving on the floor, and he's flying around. I mean, it was crazy. And I said to him, I got to have this guy. I said, because when we're lined up in the national anthem playing, and we look across and there's Duke or North Carolina or those teams, and they've got 9 McDonald's All-Americans, and we're down here and the sweat's dripping down. I want Alvarado right next to me looking at, man, I'm going right at them. I don't care of what accolades, what high school reps they have. I don't care if they're projected to be the number 1 pick in the draft. I am going right at them. Like, that was my mentality. And that was Alvarado. And that's who he was for 4 years. He didn't care who we played. And if you ask any coach in this league, they would tell you he was their favorite player for the 4 years, but 2, they had such a dislike playing against us because he just caused people fits. He just got under people's skin. It was frustrating. The way he played, it was just the way he dove on the floor. I mean, he'd be flying around. He would stick his nose in there and get all these loose balls. It was crazy. So what you see with Jose is how he is his entire life.
It's one of those things. If he's on your team, you love him. If he's not on your team, you
Exactly.
hate him, but you have to respect it either way.
You're exactly right. I can't tell you how many times, even in practice, he and I would butt heads at times because I'd be like, Jose, it would just be a constant, but his motor was rolling, and I appreciate that. And he was just a winner. He was a competitive fire type of guy that just, man, you coach, nobody's going to tell me I'm not the best player in this gym. I mean, it doesn't matter. And what's a great lesson is he found his niche. He didn't do it. His niche to make it wasn't to be cool, casual, or cute. His niche was, man, I'm putting my hard hat on, rolling my sleeves up, my working boots on, and I'm going to go to work, and I'm going to get it done. And I'm going to play with that fire. And that's why he's so appreciative. I don't care if it's at Georgia Tech, in high school, AAU, in the NBA. People love Alvarado. They love him because they have a connection to him. Like, man, that guy's he's 5'10", but he's not like some kind of elite athlete, and he's just plays so darn hard.
I love watching it, Coach. The last one here before we wrap it up. You've been in Atlanta for 7 years, like we mentioned. DK and I always talk. We think it's one of the truly underrated food cities in America because people don't really talk about restaurants when they talk about Atlanta, but there are really so many great ones. Let's shine a light on the Atlanta food scene for a second. What is the 5-star restaurant for Georgia Tech's hoops coach Josh Pastner that you tell everyone about who visits Atlanta?
Well, you're right about that. I think Atlanta is one of the best cities, not only in the United States, but in the world. I mean, Atlanta is a great spot. I'm telling you. And I tell this all the time, just the airport alone, you can fly anywhere you need to, first of all, in America nonstop and get back nonstop, but pretty much anywhere in the world nonstop. I mean, it's just, Atlanta is booming. I mean, it is booming. You should see the buildings that are being built and the cranes and it's really an awesome city. And you're right. It is one of the most underrated places food wise that you could think of all types of food that you want. And it's a very diverse city. It's just, there's so many great people. So you can get any type of food that you want, that you have an interest in or have a taste for on that evening, that lunch, breakfast, whatever it is. But, usually, for us, I'm a guy that, I'll try anything and a bunch. Now I have a young family and a bunch of kids at home, as you mentioned earlier. So I'm usually after practice heading home and just trying to grab something quick. But usually we're taking like there's a really, really good seafood restaurant right around the corner that we go to, like when we have recruits in town, it's called Ocean Air. It's really, really good. There's a place that we go to. It's called STK. That's just great environment and vibe that's going on that we take the recruits to at times, which is a steak place. I mean, so we hop around in different spots, but there's so many great spots. There's one on campus called Ray's Pizza. It's just a little place and it's got great food. I could just go on and on. Now, I will tell you this, majority of people, when the recruits, they come here, you know what they all ask me to get them? Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A.
Chick-fil-A. Yeah. Chick-fil-A. I also know the lemon pepper wings in Atlanta are banging.
Yeah. There's so many different wing spots in Atlanta that are off the charts, but a lot of people love Chick-fil-A. Obviously it's, cause not everywhere, it's not all over the America where you can get it. So most kids that are coming, Coach, can you get me a Chick-fil-A for lunch or something? You know what I mean? So that's like sometimes the biggest meal that they want is a Chick-fil-A.
Oh, Chick-fil-A, you listening? NIL, Georgia Tech. We're ready to rock, baby.
There you go.
Coach, you're amazing, man. Thank you so much. We got Georgia Tech's Hoops program listeners. You can check them out at GTMBB on Twitter. What else you got going on, Josh? What do you got? You got promoting? You got a camp going on? You got anything fun going on this summer?
No, you know what? We had camp we had camp earlier, so we're out for right now. We just got done with the July recruiting period. We're finishing up summer school, so then we'll have a couple week break, and then we'll start again for school on August 22nd. So we're right around the corner. Really looking forward to it. If any listeners out there, you got any great recruits, you want to be a season ticket holder, send me an email. Just email me. And if you don't get a response, you send to the wrong person. J Pastner, JPASTNER @athletics, plural ATHLETICS.gatech.edu. Now listen, you can also go to ramblingrec.com. My email's on there. It goes right to me. I'm very, just responsive. So reach out to me anytime and go Georgia Tech.
Look at that. Look at that 1 stars. I got a guy out of LA and Phoenix, my guy Trevor Thompson, 5th year, one of the best shooters in the Southwest. You better believe we're dropping an email to you, brother.
Send me an email, man. Send me an email. I'm on it.
We've had a lot of coaches on this pod, and none of them have ever given their email address. I'll tell you.
Reach out to me, and I respond. I'm great on email. Just send me an email. I'm great. I'll respond. Or if you want to talk about basketball, as I tell the Georgia Tech fans, hey, this is your program. If you're not happy with our offense, no problem. Send me an email. Give me a solution. What do you think's better? You don't like our defense? Tell me what we can do. You don't like my stuffing pattern? No problem. Hey, I'm for all the communication. It doesn't have to all be positive all the time. If you have some things that you're frustrated with, let me know.
Let him know. He's up ready to talk about Horns offense, man. That's amazing, Coach. Thank you so much for being on the podcast, taking the time with us. We really appreciate your energy, and this is amazing. You got me pumped up for the day. Thank you so much, sir.
Thanks, guys. Really appreciate you having me on.
For sure. 5-star hoops coach, Rip. Ken, any breaking news on the Chick-fil-A nil deal that we talked about. It sounds like a match made in heaven in Atlanta, just a team-centric, all-team Chick-fil-A deal. Any breaking news on that?
I confess I don't have any breaking news on that. I do see the value in it. I mean, everybody loves Chick-fil-A, and any way you can attach yourself to the brand, I think is good. But they don't do a lot of they
don't do a lot,
endorsement stuff. So yeah,
I did see them. They're dipping their toes. I saw them on some TBT jerseys and during the TBT tournament, which has been really fun.
Oh, okay.
What's the best Nil as once again name, image, and likeness for a college athlete's mother? Just to remind you, Ken, what's the best nil deal that you've seen locally since it started?
Yeah, I think for Georgia Tech, one that Michael DeVoe had. I don't think I call the best one, but there's a law firm in town. Or like have an office in town, and he did it with them, and he had a billboard, and I forget, it was.
That's creative. That is a good one.
It is, yeah. I mean, but
yeah.
So it was. I forget the kind of the tag, but it was kind of playing off his talents and abilities as a basketball player, and so he was there were like I was saying, there were billboards across town of him, and so that was kind of a cool thing for him to be able to do.
I like it. Yeah, we sent some pizza places. Our guy,
right.
What do we have? Kyron Williams from Notre Dame. He's on the Rams now. He got he should have been Chibole, Rip. I think he ended up getting an Arby's deal when he was in his last year at Notre Dame. See some good ties there, but we're looking for some good, healthier options. I threw out Chick-fil-A, of course, early. Right. It's early days of the NIL stuff. It's something that I think the ACC can set pace in once we figure out a little bit more here along the way. But, recruiting's tough. Rip, let me ask you. I haven't asked you this, I don't think. Do you think that the G League, Rip, is hurting programs like Georgia Tech in the recruiting game? Do you think the time has come where they're a serious competitor for some of that talent?
Well, I think, and Ken can attest to this, but Josh's kind of motto for Georgia Tech and the way that they have to recruit players is, I think it's get old and stay old, meaning yes. they can't get the one and done guys. Like they have to have the guys that are there 3-4 years. So I think with things like the G League, like they're probably taking more of those one and done guys, the overtime elite. Sorry, our guy Cameron Quick up in Northern California he's sending a lot of players from the Oakland Soldiers to those kind of programs. So I don't think it probably affects Georgia Tech as much as it would like a Duke or Kentucky, but I'll leave that up to Ken. He's the expert.
What do you think, Ken? The G League, I mean, obviously y'all got to recruit against the big boys down there no matter how the game's lined up. Some of the G League stuff, you seeing some recruits taking their talents either to overseas or to the G League?
No, I would agree with Rip. I mean, I think like Tech's kind of their sweet spot. I think that they're trying to get is the kids like 50 to 150, the kids that maybe that are undervalued or that are good, but maybe not every ACC school wants to. I think they kind of accepted we're not going to be able to typically compete with Duke and Kentucky and North Carolina, so we want to get the next level and develop them, like Rip was saying, into the guys that can be all ACC kids by the time they're juniors and seniors. I mean, maybe there's a kind of a domino effect of, Duke doesn't get the guy they want, so they go after, the next guy, and that school now has to go after the kids that Georgia Tech had his eyes on. So maybe there's something of that, but directly speaking, I don't know there's much of an impact.
Yeah, totally. And I like what Coach Pastner is doing, Rip. And you kind of mentioned it. You develop these relationships in parts of the country that are basketball hotbeds, and it takes time. Everything takes time to do the right way. And I think they're on their way, at least on their way to producing pros pretty regularly. We're back at it again at Georgia Tech and having a lot of fun along the way. So we're in good shape basketball-wise. I want to try something. This could be a total fail or not. I have a game. Okay, don't get too nervous.
Like games, sorry.
We're going to do Georgia Tech bar trivia questions that I found on the internet, aka I take no responsibility for this segment being extremely 5-star. It could be very 1-star. You never know. So with that said, Ken, it sounds like you're down. Rip, you down?
Yeah.
Let's do it. I have no experience in Georgia Tech or Atlanta, but I'm down.
These are not really sports. These are bar trivia, which is a big thing. Right now, by the way. But I have 5 questions. We'll do best out of 5. So you got to get 3 to get a W. If we're not getting any W's here, we'll do a tiebreaker as a 6th question. All right, let's hit it. Let's see what we got here. Test you guys. Rip, I'll be very impressed, by the way, if you know some of these. We'll start with you. I think they kind of go a little bit easier to harder, fellas, just like bar trivia. So Rip, starting with you. First question of our Georgia Tech game, we'll call it. Damn, I need a better title. 1 star. Rip, what is the name of Georgia Tech's mascot?
The Yellow Jackets.
He has a particular name,
Oh
just like Sparky at ASU. And
man, I don't know that one. I have no idea.
you're gonna take an L. We're gonna send it over to you, Ken.
What's his name?
What's his name?
It's Buzz.
Buzz. Ding, ding,
All right.
ding. Well
Oh,
done, Ken.
They're the same as the
I feel
Charlotte
much
Hornets.
better about this quiz.
Already. Well, we're gonna start with you. Let's see where you at now, Ken. I think
All right.
I got you a little
Maybe I
bit here.
spoke too soon. All right.
What model vehicle, Ken, is the Ramblin' Wreck?
Oh man, it's I know it's a 1930, and I want to say it's like a Ford Sport Coupe. Is that right?
Damn, I'm gonna give it's a restored 1930s. Sorry, Rip, I didn't give you a chance. I know you don't know this one.
I was gonna say Hummer.
No. It's a very cool. Google this, listeners, if you've never heard of the Ramblin' Wreck. But it's a restored 1930s Ford Model A Cabriolet Coupe.
That's right. All right.
Ken, you're pretty close. I'm gonna give you a half. We're gonna keep you at
I'll
one.
take a
though.
half.
We'll keep you at one just to name the game. All right, we'll stick with. Let's go over to Rip. Rip. What trio of Georgia Tech basketball players were nicknamed Lethal Weapon 3?
Oh man, I know it was Dennis Scott. Shoot. Can't give me the other two. I don't even know the other two.
You're not even gonna take a shot. One was a one-star guest, Rip.
Oh, this is bad. Kenny Anderson. Kenny
There you
Anderson.
go.
Yes. This next one, if you get it, Rip, just take a guess. But if you get it, you will.
Brian
be
Oliver?
Nice.
Holy shit! Did you Google it?
No, I had some memory from the 90s back or the late 80s, whatever it
Bro,
was.
you just impressed
Remember that
Ken.
name.
You just impressed Ken.
Well
All
done.
right, there you go.
1990
1 star.
Final 14. Yeah, Bobby Crummins. Yeah.
All right, 1-1. We got a game. Kenny Anderson, Brian Oliver, Dennis Scott, Lethal Weapon 3. Good knowledge, Rip. All right, Ken, sliding it back to you.
right.
What football coach also coached baseball and basketball at Georgia Tech?
Oh,
Same time.
that'd be John Heisman, right?
Ding, ding, ding. That was too easy. But John Heisman, the Heisman, Rip, the actual trophy that we see and know. This man was a coaching legend at Georgia Tech, which Ken knows. Okay, Rip, sending it back.
He's
to
also
you.
an actor, actually.
Actually,
Yeah.
all kinds of knowledge. You know what's his, you know his most famous movie? Extra Points.
He was in plays, I think,
Oh, he's in
but I don't know. Yeah, and it was it's probably before movies or before like.
Very classy. Culture in Atlanta that Ken's bringing with John Heisman outside the trophy. Rip. All right, you're down.
Well, you gave
2-1.
Ken that half, so I don't think I have a chance, but I'll try.
It might be over,
All right.
but we'll try this one. Rip.
I might get a negative on the next one.
in the oh, this is a good one. In the mini 500 race during homecoming week, students race using what vehicles? And vehicles might be a stretch.
During homecoming week. Let's go with unicycles.
Oh,
Very close. Very close. Ken for the steal.
tricycles.
Bang, bang, bang.
Ah,
Very
It's
close.
really unfair to Rep. I mean,
Very
we
difficult.
should've-
I'm just glad I
should've
got that
spotted
lethal
a couple-
weapon.
Should have spotted him a couple points at least. Yeah.
Very great win, Ken. My tiebreaker was extremely obscure. Let's just throw it out there and see if you got it because I thought
All
this was an odd fun fact. What course until 1986 was a requirement at Tech in which you had to pass to graduate that involved students learning to bob in the water, to swim underwater with their hands and feet tied together?
Actually, I think it was a drawn proofing.
Bingo. What?
Yeah.
That sounds like a liability nightmare.
All right.
You know,
That's probably when he
1986.
stopped.
1986 was a horrendous health year for all of us. Glad thing they stopped. We were all eating TV dinners at that point in time. Somebody
Right.
stepped in. Drown proofing was a class though. Everybody had to take, which is wild. So if you run into any Georgia Tech alumni along the way pre 86, they're probably not going to drown. So legit class.
Yeah, it's
Wow.
funny actually. The football team, they redid their locker room a few years ago, and when they did, like they dug into the ground and they dug into what was the remains of the swimming pool. So they had to where that class was taught. So they had to kind
came
of
on up.
they had. I guess people had forgotten it was there, but yeah. So that's how I learned about drown.
Fun facts. If anybody's doing bar trivia and that shit comes up, you remember 1-star recruit. You give us 5 stars. It's Ken Segura. You could tell your friends that we had Tom Segura on if it just messes up the algorithm. All right. But you know, we nailed some trivia. Rip, what was that? How was that a terrible game or some? Ken, sometimes I fail miserably on these games. Rip, what do you think? Was that okay?
If nothing else, it showed that I'm a 1-star and Ken's a 5-star. So that's all we needed to clear up there.
That is
Well, in the realm of obscure Georgia Tech facts, yes, I feel like I can hold my own. But probably a lot of other areas. Yeah, I remain a 1-star. So.
Get this man up. Get this man his Brian Oliver jersey, and we'll continue on. Ken, at the end of all of our episodes, Rip as well. If we do our Rex of the Week, it's anything in this world that's made you smile, made your life a little bit better, helped you pass time, something that you want to share with others. Rip, hit us off. Lead off.
I'm gonna go this week with something, DK, that I was sending you pictures from Santa Cruz all weekend, but I was also sending you pictures of something that was on my mother-in-law's counter, something we're very familiar with. Ken, if you don't know about this, you're a true 5-star. It's called Psyllium Husk. It's kind of a digestive fiber supplement to your diet. And DK and I have been taking it for about 6 months now, and we take it religiously every day with water. We take the powder formula. But I just discovered this weekend, and DK knows, is there's capsules. So that's my recommendation of the week. Is we've been recommending Psyllium Husk powder for all these months, but just go get the capsules. It's much easier, DK. As you know, it really thickens up a drink, water, anything. The capsules you don't have that problem with.
Yeah, I mean, and Ken, it thickens up your deuce, is what we're talking about. We're trying to take better log.
For cutting through.
I want to be clear. I want to be clear here. So I just was judging, Ken, and I'm glad you found that Rip It great for people who are older as well. We're really trying to massage this company now into a nice sponsorship, Ken. So just work with us on that one. But Psyllium Husk, it actually, if you are looking for more fiber, it's the most amazing product out in the game.
And the company, just to be clear, is Now Foods, NOW Foods. They make all kinds of supplements, but Psyllium Husk is the one that you want to go after.
There it is. I'm gonna follow because it's too good not to follow. Ken, I'll let you bring us home. My rec of the week, speaking of big logs, is called Big Timber.
Okay.
It's a Netflix show. It's kind of a show to I like the nature shows on the Smithsonian and like kind of Alone and some of those shows like this. It's a show about Vancouver Island, and it's a logging company. It's a family mill, and this guy's a machine. I didn't think I would like it, but before you know it, I'm watching 3 or 4 shows, and I'm rooting for this guy to find some red cedar. You know what I'm saying? So Big Timber on Netflix. Check it out. It's a surprisingly great show. Ken, after that might have been a total 1-star, man. Bring us home. Get us a good one, brother. What do you got?
All right. So I'm going to show you a game that we played on our recent vacation. It's called Crimes Against Humanity. I don't know if you've heard of it, but Cards Against Humanity. And so it's I'm not gonna be able to describe it very well, but it's a card game, and you're trying to come up with different answers for things, to different questions. And
are you playing with family, Ken, or your friends? Because it gets a little crazy with family.
Well, it's we have the family edition, and so my son, who's 8, like, I don't know that I've seen him laugh as hard as he did playing this game. It's a lot of potty humor, which is up our family's alley. So for families with kids around that age, maybe a little bit older, it's a big winner.
Way to keep the log thing going through the whole.
The
whole segment, Ken. You're a pro at this, man. You're a pro. Where can listeners find you, Mr. Ken Segura, on social media and beyond? Sure.
On Twitter, it's K Segura AJC. It's KSUGIURA AJC, and the website where I write is the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. It's AJC.com. So
AJC.com. There it is, and we'll get this all put together. Ken, if you get super bored and you're messing around, give us 5 stars. Helps us so much. We're going to do the same for you.
6 stars, 7 stars.
6 stars. I'm going to get that e-newspaper. I'm going to get in that Atlanta Journal. I actually know a lot of my friends from Atlanta religiously still have moved on. Still, that is their reading of choice in the morning. So you guys are doing big things over there. Thank you, brother. Thank you for being on the show. Rip, what do you got? Bring us home, man.
Hey, if everyone can have half the positivity that Josh Pastner showed in the interview today, it would make the world a lot better place. I mean, like Ken mentioned, he's been through some crazy things in the past couple of years, but he always brings positive energy. So that's a lot to say about someone. So that's it. See you next week.
That's it. Let's go, baby. We're in East Texas next week. Go Yellow Jackets.
All right. Thanks, guys.
See you next week. Thanks, Ken.